Good morning, family. Today I decided to bless you with just one of the stories from a book that I've written called The Squad. And I just wanted to share one of these stories with you. I pray that you would get the book. It is an excellent read. It's on Amazon. And I pray that you would get it and read it and enjoy it and kind of share with me this thing called life. I'm going to read a story from there. They're all short stories. It's about 120 pages. All of them are real short stories, sort of like a chicken soup for the soul, sort of, so to speak. But it is a book of reality, a book of my calls when I work the Philadelphia Fire Department Paramedics 911 system. So I'll read one of the stories called Undetermined. We arrive we arrived for work on our second night work, beat from the night before. Summertime was kicking in as June gave way to July. I couldn't wait for this night to be over and enjoy 4 days of freedom from the squad and the streets of North Philly. The shift started off as usual with a cup of coffee and those familiar 4 short bursts of fire bells. We ran for a couple of hours but managed to make it back to the firehouse. As we backed in the station, we could smell dinner as the firefighters rushed us to sit down and eat. They were always concerned that we had time to eat, and as soon as they heard on the radio that we were available, they would fix our plates and have them ready. Dinner that night was meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green bean casserole. We had a big chocolate-covered cake for dessert. We got a chance to finish our meal and get a little R&R, rest and relaxation. My partner and I loved to sit out on the bench in front of the station and watch the sights and listen to the music coming out of the bar across the street. After all, this was a Saturday night, and there was sure to be some action at the bar. The night moved slowly, and the PA system was very quiet. But we knew that if we caught a break now, we would pay for it later in the middle of the night. Time would prove us right, as it was now 2:30 a.m., and we heard those fire bells clang. Squad, they yelled. Undetermined is the nature of the call, and they gave us the address. I hated these undetermined calls. Walking into an unknown situation put us at risk and danger, while not allowing us time to prepare ourselves mentally for what we might encounter. For most medics, we prepare ourselves mentally while we're en route to the scene. But when we don't know what we're going into the scene for, there is no way to prepare. We hopped into the squad and got a kick out of chasing everyone out of the way as they scurried for shelter in the bar after seeing the magnificent light show from the Freightliner ambulance that we affectionately call the squad, and its powerful air horn as we blared out of the station. The air horn was a loud horn that you might find on an 18-wheeler truck, and we loved blowing people out of our way. We arrived on location and it appeared to be an abandoned building. I called dispatch and rechecked the address. It came back that we were at the right location. There was no one present. Furthermore, this was an abandoned building. So we reported the call as false, cleared ourselves with dispatch, and returned to the station. About 30 minutes later, we were redispatched to that same location and went back to the scene. We drove around the 3-story brick building with all of its windows busted out. Once again, we radioed to dispatch to check the location, and we were at the right place. We walked around outside the building and did not see anything out of place. Must be somebody playing around, we thought, so let's make it a false alarm and get out of here. I stood in the squad doing my paperwork in front of our location, and it was then that I noticed an open door. The more I stared at this door, it seemed to call me, and beckoned me to enter. I just looked at it. I just stared at it. And I jumped out of the squad and told my partner I was going to check it out. My partner quickly jumped out also, and we headed into the dark building together. The building was strewn with trash and debris, and it was pitch black. With flashlights in hand, we began to yell out, "Hello, hello, hello, anybody here?" But there was no response. We started upstairs to the second floor, checking each step to make sure we don't fall through. And we got up there and we found much the same. Trash everywhere. Broken glass littered the floor as well. My partner and I said, "Let's make this unfounded." And we headed for the stairs. Just then I heard it. I stopped and I asked my partner, "Did you hear anything?" And he responded, "No, I didn't hear anything." We continued walking towards the stairs. And this time we both heard that faint cry, "Help, help." And we could barely hear it, but it was there. We looked around in the pitch black, and there she was. She must have been about 30 years of age and was covered in trash. I could only see her hand sticking up through the pile of rubbish. We called for an engine to assist us as we started the task of removing the debris from her body, trying to assure her that we was there to help her. Her screams of fear turned to uncontrollable cries and pleas for mercy and help. "Help me, please. Help me, please. Sonia, please help me. Don't leave me." Once uncovered, we could see the violence and mayhem that had taken place. She was covered in blood and her face was severely swollen, while her panties lay lodged around her ankles, soaked with blood. She made my job difficult as I tried to extricate her. She kept grabbing on my arms and reaching for my face with her bloody hands. Finally, we were able to cocoon her and carry her out of the building. We wrapped her in a sheet and placed her on a mobile stretcher, and we tied her so tight to where she couldn't grab and get blood all over us. She kept screaming for her babies, and I asked the police and firefighters who had arrived to make a second sweep for children, praying all the time that if they were there, they would be alive. They found no children, and this poor woman's hysteria grew as her rescuer, became her attacker in her mind. She looked at me and begged me not to hurt her. I felt badly for this lady as I tried to reassure her that I was there to only help her. I knew that in her state of mind, after being raped and beaten so badly, that I could not render the medical treatment I should, because to touch her would cause her to revisit the abuse all over again. So I sat back on the bench inside the ambulance and I looked in her eyes that were filled with fear and tears. I began to pray for her, but I could not unlock my eyes from hers. As much as I wanted to turn away, she held me in sort of a trance. I struggled to turn my head and divert my eyes, but I couldn't. For the first time, I saw how beautiful she was. Through all the blood and facial swelling, you could still see she was a beautiful lady. I slowly reached out my hand and she took hold of it. I allowed her to draw all her strength, all the strength she needed from me. Strength that she would surely need to survive and recover. We arrived at the hospital, but she refused to let go of my hand. I had now become what I needed to be to her, and that is her rescuer. As I sat contemplating my Jane Doe paperwork, because she could not tell me her name, I wonder what kind of human being would do this to her, and where were her children? I wonder from time to time what became of her. I secretly hoped to see her again, this time healed and doing well, but that was never the case. I learned something that terrible, horrible night. What would have become of her had we not took the time and courage to go and search for her. I learned there is no such thing as an undetermined call. It's up to the medics to determine the call. To all of my family who live in the squad, you are the one who determines the call by your diligence and your courage to go and seek out and rescue those people that monsters have torn apart. Peace to all my fellow paramedics in the squad.